people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that Canada's own Carolyn Veyre, who campaigns in the women's featherweight division, is climbing up the ranks. The WBA ranks, to be exact. Currently, she comes in at number 2, just behind France's own Emma Gongora, WBA gold champion. Ranked ahead of them is Spain's own Jennifer Miranda, the WBA's interim champion. And I would give Carolyn Veyre reasonable odds to beat the both of those fighters. Sporting a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss, no draws, no recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 10 professional bouts, it would seem that Carolyn has changed her decorum, decided to train abroad and train in America, and I think it actually has made a difference. When I first saw Carolyn in action, she seemed a fence and fiddle fighter, a finesse fighter. She used to fight under Group Yvonne Michel, Canadian-based outfit, very well-to-do outfit up there, alongside Marie-Pierre Huel and Kim Clavel, other Canadian fighters. She used to train up there. Now she's signed to Dimitri Salita, who also promotes Clarissa Shields and several other fighters. She's training in America. She has effectively changed her decorum, given it a complete overhaul, and I think the difference is showing. She's fighting with a lot more spite, a lot more mean streak. She suffered her first professional loss in September of last year to Joanna Lopez, rebounded off the loss a few months later in December against Gabriela Bouvier, and she was last in action earlier this month against Carmen Vargas, who she beat up. Marked her face all up. Over 8 rounds, seemingly going up the WBA route. The WBA featherweight champion is Amanda Serrano, but we know that Amanda's en route to yet another Katie Taylor fight, so I don't think that she'll be coming back to the featherweight division, and at some point in the not-so-distant future, she may vacate the WBA and WBO titles she currently holds at this weight. Thus, if Carolyn Veyre stays the course, stays fighting, stays winning, she may land a pole position to fight for the black and gold belt, and perhaps see herself become a world champion. In what is an ever-changing featherweight landscape where Sky Nicholson reigns as WBC champion, Nina Menka, she's got the IBF, Amanda Serrano's got the WBO and WBA titles, at least momentarily, but like I said, her career is winding down, and after she makes whatever she makes with Katie Taylor, and however that works out, I do not anticipate that she's going to return to the featherweight division. I anticipate she could be retiring very soon. They both could. That'll free up some of those belts for a fighter like Carolyn Veyre to fight for. Carolyn Veyre, who we've talked about several times here on the channel at 126, she is one to watch out for, and she's on the cusp, on the verge of fighting for an alphabet title. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, an update to a story we talked about earlier this week. Top Rank's Todd Duboff, a racist, and made racist remarks about Mexicans and Deontay Wilder. According to the lawsuit filed by Billy Keane against Top Rank and Todd Duboff, Duboff made racist and offensive remarks about a prominent Mexican attorney and former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder, who is African American. According to Keane, Duboff is well known in the Mexican and Mexican-American communities for being a racist. This account is, according to court documents, the lawsuit that Billy Keane has filed, unflattering but little more than an attempt to assassinate Todd Duboff's character. That is, in the absence of audio or video, something to constitute a pattern of behavior. The story continues. Top Rank's Todd Duboff instructed Keane to have Daniel Kinahan lean on Shelly Finkel to secure Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury rematch. According to the lawsuit, page 20, filed by Billy Keane against Top Rank and Todd Duboff, Keane worked with Daniel to orchestrate conversations and pursue a deal with Wilder's advisors for the Fury rematch. Keane also alleges that Duboff instructed him to have Kinahan lean on Wilder's manager, Shelley Finkel, to get the deal done. Well, Shelley's not a big guy. If you lean on him, he's gonna fall right over. He's not a young guy either, but when they say they leaned on him, I don't think they meant literally, I think they meant figuratively. Put pressure on him to make the Fury rematch. Though I remember around that time, after their initial meeting, Deontay Wilder's sole focus was fighting Tyson Fury again, so much so, he rejected a $100 million offer from DAZN to box Anthony Joshua 2 times. As it pertains to that offer, Top Rank's Todd Duboff instructed Keane to have JDs use racism to convince Wilder to reject the DAZN deal and made racist remarks about Al Heyman. Unflattering, I know, but is it grounds for a lawsuit? The lawsuit filed by Billy Keane against Top Rank and Todd Duboff instructed Keane to advise Deontay Wilder's trainer, JD's, to use racist tropes to persuade Wilder not to sign with John Skipper and DAZN. I'm not hearing where a crime was committed. Keane also alleges that Duboff used an even more offensive term in regards to Wilder and Al Heyman. Wilder ultimately rejected a multi-fight deal with DAZN that guaranteed him at least $100 million, which Deontay Wilder later admitted was more money than he stood to make fighting Fury. So then why didn't he just take it? Well, what the lawsuit basically alleges is that they convinced Wilder to reject the money, but I'm not hearing where that's a crime. I'm not hearing where a law was broken. And how much more is Billy Keane going to give away about his line of work before he starts to incriminate himself? I mean, what are you doing? And who are you doing it with? Because this puts you in the same league as a suspected cartel boss. You come out with all of this, and that sits you right next to Daniel Kinahan, who was sanctioned by the U.S. government. Might decide to stick their nose in your business to get to him. So how much more are you going to give away before you start incriminating yourself? Playing devil's advocate in order to postulate that in the event all of these things are true, all it really means is that Wilder's own people were double dealing and double dipping, that they were in bed with the Top Rank people pushing Wilder towards that Fury rematch, which is confirmation of what I already thought, that the advice that Wilder was getting at that time was not advice in his best interests, but their own. Because, for starters, why is JD's, who's been with Wilder for a very long time, having these kinds of conversations with Billy Keane? It doesn't sound like Wilder was a party to them. I've maintained for years that at that time the better deal for Wilder was the DAZN deal because it offered him more money for what was a bigger fight, much bigger than the Fury fights turned out to be, and he would have got an immediate rematch clause if he lost. If he won, he would have still got to make more money. So it was, in fact, the better deal, but it was his own people that guided him away from it. You're saying that you advised JD's to use racist tropes to guide Wilder in the direction of Fury? Why was JD's a party to this? What you're attempting to do is assassinate Todd Duboff's character, but all you're really telling us is that he really wanted that Fury versus Wilder rematch, and he was willing to go to some lengths to do it. But I could have told you that. When Top Rank signed Tyson Fury, right after their initial meeting, I could have told you the people at Top Rank want a Wilder rematch. Pursuing that rematch and going as far as consorting with Wilder's own team is not a crime. In fact, I think this looks more unethical on Wilder's end, that is his team's, than it does on Top Rank, because his team is supposed to operate in his best interests. If you guys are working with Top Rank behind the scenes and behind his back, even if there are some unflattering elements to this case, Todd wanting Fury to get the Wilder rematch is not a crime. Even if they did resort to some less than savory tactics, I'm not hearing where a law was broken. But when you talk about Shelley Finkel and JD's consorting with the people at Top Rank to guide Wilder in the direction of the rematch, Well, that's where it starts to sound unethical, because you guys are supposed to be working to get Wilder the best deal, and you didn't. You left the best deal on the table. And you know that Al Heyman was said to have been in attendance for that meeting with John Skipper at DAZN
for the $100 million.
We know what advice he gave Deontay Wilder, because Wilder ended up walking away. You walked away from more money for less money to lose your belt, lose your title, lose your status, and get your ass kicked.
That's the advice they gave you.
Not just JD's, not just Shelley Finkel, but Al Heyman himself, playing sides of the street.
You give this account of events, and all I hear is that Deontay Wilder was betrayed by his own people, irrespective of Todd Duboff and whatever unsavory tactics he may have used. They don't even come into it unless Wilder's people are gonna play ball, which according to you, they did.
And that's if you're even telling the truth. Remember, folks, these are all allegations. This is all coming from Billy Keane, who looks to me to be in the midst of a shakedown. I can see it now. You threatened to go public with all of this if Toprank didn't cut you a check.
You were trying to blackmail them.
You still are. You're leveraging an unflattering lawsuit that airs out all of their dirty laundry against an out-of-court settlement so that they can make all of this go away.
And that's what you're really hoping for.
That while he's making all of these allegations, don't treat it like it's the gospel just yet, because this is a guy who's after something, and he's willing to go to some lengths to get it.
What are you really saying? That Todd Duboff is a bit of a bigot? Yeah, so's Teofimo. So's Ryan. So are a lot of people. What else?
That he wanted Tyson Fury to get another crack at the apple with Wilder? I could have told you that.
What else?
That a part of your job description was to work alongside a suspected cartel boss.
This is a shakedown.
Oftentimes, what we see in situations like this one is people treat the allegations themselves as if they are proof.
Before a case is even adjourned or before a settlement is reached, and that's what I think Billy Keane is hoping for. That all of this is so unflattering for Top Rank that they settle out of court.
Though it looks more unflattering for Wilder's team, in my view.
You were double dealing him. You were double dipping.
And the reason that they might have gone along with this is, remember, if Wilder would have took the DAZN deal, all of that would have happened on DAZN, not Showtime. Do you think that's what his team wanted? Do you think that's what Al Heyman wanted? For their prized stallion at the time to go to another platform to be content for somebody else? That if you're asking yourself, why would they have been a party to this? That's why.
What would have been good for Wilder wouldn't have been good for them.
For Al Heyman's broadcast partners, skip the DAZN deal, stay in America, fight Fury again.
For Al Heyman's broadcast partners, and not somebody else trying to break into the American market.
It's what I see. They might decide to settle all of this out of court.
Make it go away.
Neat and tidy, and behind the scenes. That's how I think this ends. Finally, the continued fallout of yesterday's PBC show on Amazon, Turki Alalshikh himself reacted to it by saying, if you're going to charge people $80 for a pay-per-view, you must give them a good card with good production.
What would seem like common sense to some
seems uncommon. Among others, as failed promoter Raging Babe reacted by saying, what was your net profit on the last show?
Here we go.
Most promoters don't have the unlimited money to lose. This guy has been in boxing for all of 10 minutes and is crowning himself.
Because you're not doing that, right?
I'm not feeling it. Too much ego, and I said what I said.
Nobody cares what you said, lady. If you knew anything about boxing, you'd still be in boxing and not selling real estate.
Because if you're already not familiar with this whimsical character, Raging Babe is little more than a failed promoter who transitioned from promoting boxing matches to selling houses, selling real estate, since she couldn't hack it as a promoter.
The nerve.
You're asking him what were the net profits of his last show? We should ask you what were yours.
Not enough to keep you in boxing.
You're asking yourself, why are you having a go at her for, though? Isn't that a valid point she's making?
Not when you think about what she's arguing in favor of. What she's arguing in favor of is an $80 price point to me and you at a time when the market is telling you you can't keep charging that because people aren't buying pay-per-views as much as they used to.
That's what she's arguing in favor of. Where Turki is criticizing the price point of the show, she's arguing that it should remain the same.
So that the promoters can make some money.
Well, you can't turn over a profit from a product that a customer doesn't buy. Some of you may not be old enough to remember that the price point of a pay-per-view didn't always used to be $80 a pop. No, the price dramatically shot up for the Maypac fight, the Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight. Before that, it didn't even used to cost as much. And while you might be able to argue that you have to adjust the pricing due to inflation,
less and less people are buying them.
Irrespective of your break-even point and whatever your operational costs, the reality of the boxing market in America is that less and less Americans are buying pay-per-views. So when you argue in favor of an $80 price point, don't you have to keep that in mind?
What the customers are telling you.
Or do you think that you can dictate to them what they're going to spend their money on? The market value of a show is determined by the customers that pay for it, not the people that put it out. You'll charge whatever they let you charge, so long as they're buying it. But when they're not,
what have you got to say then?
think about what we saw in that show. A past at Jarrett Hurd, a past at Julian Williams.
Against nondescript opponents.
Unheralded, nondescript opponents. In the main event, we saw Gervonta Davis versus a guy we just saw on ProBox for free
on YouTube.
And this should cost me and you $80 to watch.
Stick to selling houses, lady, because you don't know the ball from the bounce in boxing.
You don't. And that might seem harsh coming from me, but remember, it's my money you're trying to get at, and I'm telling you.
You need my money more than I need your boxing matches.
They need our money as a collective more than we need these kinds of cards. We got a better one a week ago that didn't cost anywhere near as much. And that's what Turki's arguing in favor of. Fair pricing.
Now, what she's arguing is that not everybody has the kinds of resources that Turki has, but I'll tell you something, that's really not my problem. It's not your problem either.
That I'm gonna sit here and side with the people that want more of my money for less value.
For shit.
Dog shit, because for most of that card, I wasn't even really paying attention. And that this is coming from somebody who's more known for flashing her tits to Gervonta Davis than any actual show she's put on.
Stick to selling houses, lady.
Because if you understood this industry as well as you think you do, you'd still be in it.
Isn't that what they call hating from outside the clubs?
There's a direct connection between oversaturation of the pay-per-view market and declining viewership for boxing in America at a time where in the last 10 years, you've seen NBC, Fox, Showtime, HBO, ESPN possibly leave the sport of boxing.
The risks often outweigh the rewards for the networks that invest in the sport.
Frittering away millions of dollars based on not the market value of a show, but a fighter and his manager's financial demands, which are not parallel to reality.
Reality is you can't keep doing this many pay-per-views, and you say, well, if we don't do the pay-per-views, the fighters won't fight. Well, then don't fight.
Find somebody else to do it. There always is.
Price has got to come down.
You've got to scale back how many box office fights you're doing or what they cost. But something has to change. The message from the market is loud and clear. Americans are not buying these pay-per-views anywhere near as much as they used to, and maybe that's because not only are there more of them, but they cost more. And this is all to accommodate the fighters and their managers' greed, not the market value or demand for these cards. Who was demanding Gervonta fight Lamont Roach?
Price has got to change.
Because you don't dictate the market value of a show. The market does.